Tensions rise as Finland becomes the 31st member of NATO. Finland joined NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, as its official 31st member, causing a significant change in the region's security. The accession of Finland into the US-led security alliance is a significant blow to Russian President Vladimir Putin's desire to limit NATO's influence in the region and has long attempted to weaken the alliance. This is the main reason for them invading Ukraine in the first place. However, tensions are rising as a result of Russia's warning that future NATO membership expansion would not bring about improved stability in Europe. Russia also stated it would increase its military near Finland if the alliance moved any forces to the new member nation. Hi, and welcome back to another video of Finance Sense, where we cover all the latest trends in the financial markets and the economy. Before we start, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click on the notification bell to stay updated with our videos. Russia recently accused NATO of endangering security and national interest by formally accepting Finland into the alliance. Dmitry Peskov, a spokesman for the Kremlin, stressed that the entry of Finland will compel Moscow to take countermeasures to ensure security, both tactically and strategically. However, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that Russian President Vladimir Putin has attempted to deprive independent sovereign states in Europe of the ability to make their own decisions and pick a course of action. He added that the invasion of Ukraine was explicitly intended to keep Ukraine from joining NATO. Nevertheless, President Putin also stated that he intended for Finland and Sweden to never join NATO in order to close the alliance's door. But Stoltenberg pointed out that Putin is getting the complete opposite. As new nations join NATO in the East, other countries like Finland and Sweden are accepted into the alliance. Furthermore, Stoltenberg stated that this is how free democratic states react when an authoritarian state like Russia attempts to limit what neighboring countries can do and re-establish a sphere of influence. Meanwhile, President Putin warned the new European representative that the organization provoked a geopolitical confrontation with Russia. In response, Stoltenberg emphasized that neither the European Union nor NATO saw this as a confrontation. NATO is a defense alliance, and NATO and Finland have never been and will never be an imminent threat to Russia. Similarly, according to Stoltenberg, it is because of Russia's invasions of nearby states like Georgia in 2008, Ukraine, and Crimea in 2014 that European nations like Finland and Sweden decided they wanted to join NATO. Finland's accession to NATO implies that Finland is becoming safer, while NATO is becoming stronger. As stated by Stoltenberg, we show that NATO's door is open. Russia has no authority to decide who is allowed to join NATO as a member state. It is up to independent democratic states to make that decision. Because Finland is a member of NATO, it will have access to all of the alliance's resources in the case of an attack. It also includes the defense provided by Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which declares that an assault on one NATO member constitutes an attack on all members. Being a member of NATO also allows the Finnish military to better coordinate training and operations with its partners. The nation has a long history of cooperation with NATO, and its armed forces frequently take part in NATO exercises as partners. The Finnish Defense Force also uses some of the same weaponry as other NATO countries, such as Fa-18 jets built in the US, Leopard main battle tanks made in Germany, and K9 howitzers used by Norway and Estonia. Helsinki has also agreed to participate in the F-35 stealth fighter program, enabling its air force to collaborate easily with NATO countries such as the US, UK, Norway, Italy, Canada, Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands. Overall, Finland benefits NATO in three significant ways: reserve forces, technological access, and artillery forces. On the other hand, Sweden is also eager to join NATO, and as Stoltenberg welcomed Finland into the alliance, he urged Turkey and Hungary to immediately allow Sweden to join. NATO maintains an open-door policy, which means that any nation can be asked to join provided it shows interest and is both able and ready to uphold the alliance's core values. Any member state, however, has the right to prevent a new nation from entering under accession regulations. The applications of Finland and Sweden were supported by an overwhelming majority of NATO members, but two countries, Turkey and Hungary, began to slow down the process. The doors were open to Finland's membership in March after Turkey and Hungary changed their minds, but Sweden's bid for membership was still being blocked. However, there is still a chance for Sweden's application. The admission of Finland is in itself something we should celebrate, said Stoltenberg, who added that it is also advantageous for Sweden. Stoltenberg said it strengthens Sweden's ties to NATO and increases its security. He further added, "At the same time, we celebrate and enjoy that Finland is now a full-fledged member. We should continue working to finalize the Swedish accession process." Aside from that, for Stoltenberg, what matters most is that Sweden joins the alliance soon, rather than Finland and Sweden joining at the same time. Furthermore, we must recognize that this is now the shortest admission procedure in NATO's contemporary history. The alliance's acceptance of Finland has also revived calls for Ukraine to join. Finland's membership sends a strong message that it is time to update outdated methods and attitudes, and that Ukraine's ultimate inclusion in NATO is the only way to guarantee the security of the whole Euro-Atlantic region. In order to guarantee that Ukraine succeeds as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe, which is a prerequisite for a genuine discussion about Ukraine joining NATO, Stoltenberg emphasized that their primary mission or major priority is to help Ukraine. He said, "We are also beginning to work on a more long-term program where we can assist Ukraine in transitioning from doctrines, standards, and equipment from the Soviet period to NATO standards, and strengthen their interoperability with NATO forces." Stoltenberg added that they need to make sure that Ukraine wins, and that NATO is assisting Ukraine in its transition to Euro-Atlantic integration. However, they have not yet made any decisions on when Ukraine's membership can be determined. On the other hand, the foreign minister of Hungary claims that merely inviting Ukraine to NATO meetings contradicts the idea of the alliance's unity. However, Stoltenberg retorted that it was crucial to meet with Ukraine to address reforms, raise problems pertaining to minority rights, and discuss how to maintain the unparalleled assistance that NATO and NATO partners are providing to Ukraine. Stoltenberg believes it is beneficial to have a forum where people can discuss a variety of topics that are significant for Europe, NATO members, and Ukraine. Moreover, it is clear that Ukraine needs more ammunition badly, but Europe is unable to produce it rapidly enough. Stoltenberg replied, "We are ramping up production," in response to a question on NATO's plans for dealing with Ukraine's ammunition shortage. Last fall, we observed that this conflict has evolved into a war of attrition, which is a logistics war. As a result, Stoltenberg added, "We are closely collaborating with the defense sector across the alliance to increase production, partly to be able to replenish our own stocks, but also, of course, to be able to continue giving Ukraine the support they need to launch a new counteroffensive and to liberate more land." For instance, NATO ally South Korea is increasing manufacturing and supplying additional weapons to NATO partners and increased assistance for Ukraine. Moving along, NATO members warned China's leader Xi Jinping on his visit to Moscow that there would be consequences if Beijing provided lethal aid to Moscow. Stoltenberg said, however, that they were unable to verify if China had sent Russia any deadly or offensive weaponry. But NATO is keeping a close eye on what China does because they know that China and Russia are working together more and more in the military field. Together, they conducted extensive military drills and coordinated naval air patrols. Just a few weeks prior to the invasion of Ukraine, China and Russia released a joint statement in which they made it clear that their relationship had no limits. Additionally, China has not condemned President Putin and Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. Stoltenberg went on to say that the US has made it clear that providing lethal aid to Russia will have serious consequences. It would appear that this video has come to an end. Thank you for watching this far. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give it a like, and comment below with your thoughts on what you've seen so far. This is Finance Sense, here to help you stay updated on all the most recent developments in the world's economies and financial markets. Have a nice day, and we'll see you in the next video.